we go again.
Here we go again. So as I was saying, I want to keep doing this new achievement archive thing we're doing because I find it quite fun. So, wow, my waves.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's much bigger, isn't it? It's kind of insane.
Yeah. So, Jables, where did we get up to? I think we were doing about 3 games at a time. We've talked about Avatar before. I want to ask you about a very interesting game called Lord of the Rings Conquest.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So this is interesting because it's made by Pandemic, who notoriously made some incredible games, including Saboteur, which Jay likes, and Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, the OGs. They were the bee's knees. They then make a Lord of the Rings game. Now, this was the first game, or one of the first games I got using Love Film. You remember Love Film, Jay?
Yes. I remember coming over to your house and you had like an ottoman in the hallway where you could like sit and take your shoes off. It had like a back to it. And I remember on like either the far left or the far right, you had a stack of like Netflix or Love Film like DVDs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember every time I came around, you always had a stack of them. You had so many, and I'd be like, "Wow, they like watching movies, I guess."
Oh, wow.
And I have a feeling you were getting games from that as well.
I remember the Ottoman you talk about. I remember that. So yeah, I think you could get both. And basically, I think Love Film was what eventually became Amazon Prime, eventually. Because they acquired that.
And then Netflix became a streaming service.
100%. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because Netflix used to email the DVDs too? Mm-hmm. Wow. Dude, you can't recreate that feeling of like a disc coming through the post. I don't know what disc it's going to be. I open it up. Oh, it's this. Do you know what I mean?
I guess so, yeah.
I mean, maybe you could check online and see what one came to you. But anyway, let's get back to the point. So Lord of the Rings Conquest comes through. So I didn't buy this game at launch, Jay. But I remember playing it thinking like, oh my God, this is basically Star Wars Battlefront in the Lord of the Rings universe. I also remember playing through the whole game and then some around my mate's, Jack. Played through it all night. He notoriously, as I bring up every time I see him because I'm repetitive, notoriously gave me a glass of Coke during the night. And I tried some and it was a glass of vinegar. And
that's gross.
It was fantastic, yeah. And then
so
we
I'm
did.
now looking at gameplay of Lord of the Rings Conquest, and I remember it pretty well actually, but it does not hold up very well.
Yeah, what you tell me what your thoughts are, because I don't think it holds up well either.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it.
Oh man, that's dope. Technology's amazing, isn't it? Is that a double speed or something?
No, that's just as is.
Huh.
That's the very beginning of the game, and if you remember that, I remember
Helm's Deep, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You remember what are your thoughts then? What are your memories to this game?
It's odd because it's not like that good of a game, but it has a very similar feeling to what I remember Battlefront 1 and 2. Is that the right game? Star Wars Battlefront?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it had a very similar feeling to that where in my mind it played so much better, but looking back at it, it's like, Jesus Christ, how did I ever even play that? You couldn't pay me to play something like that nowadays.
Sure. In terms of playing through it at the time, did you enjoy it a lot? Because I see you've got most of the Chivos for it.
Yeah, I must have, but I don't really remember most of the game. I think it's one of those things where I'd have to look at someone play through the game to realize what I remember. That makes sense. Like it's in the part of my brain that's sort of like the sort of backup area where I won't ever remember what it looks like until I bring it to the forefront again. So I'd have to like remind myself what it looked like. But
sure, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I have to my memory has gotten to the point where it's full, so I have to delete things and make room. So
I get you. I think you may remember, Jay, once you finish the main campaign, the hero campaign, you can do the villain campaign. And you basically like, I think you basically start at the end of the hero campaign, but obviously instead of them winning, the villains win. And then so you slowly push back all the territory they've just gained. So like Gondor, Rohan.
Was there a multiplayer?
There is a multiplayer, yeah.
Because I think that's what you had to do in the multiplayer, right? You had to sort of push for control, basically.
I think so, yeah. And like, yeah.
Because you could do that in... Well, you can do that in a number of multiplayer games. You can do that in Call of Duty. You can do that in Battlefront.
There is a big one, though, that rings that bell, pushing forward and back. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, they do it in Overwatch. It's basically the primary... There's a new mode in Overwatch called Push where you have to do that.
Oh. Aptly named. This is one of those games, Jay, where if I was going to be, or if I was a big time streamer or YouTuber, this is the sort of game where I would gather my forces and ask people to basically boost the Chivos with me, because that would help my OCD. You know what I'm saying? Because there's quite a few
Yep,
multiplayer
I can
achievements.
understand that. I can understand that. Yeah, yeah. You kind of need to. It still bugs me that there's ever multiplayer achievements in games. Do you know what I think they should do? Because
Go on.
Bleeding Edge did this. Bleeding Edge is obviously a multiplayer only game, and at some point the game went down, from like maybe tens of thousands of concurrent players to maybe only a couple hundred or something. So what they did was they basically gave away the achievements. So all you had to do was play one match, and they gave you all the achievements for the game. So basically 1000G instantly.
Why didn't you tell me about this? Why didn't I
I
go
did
on
tell
it?
you about this. You can probably do it right now.
I think it's gone down now, hasn't
I
it?
said to you, yo, if you want to get this quick G, do it. And you were like, I don't know if I'm gonna bother.
What?
I remember what
You
you
play
said. You were
one
like, I
match
don't
and you
really
get
want to play that
1000
game.
G.
Basically, they just give you them. You don't have to really do anything. You just got to play the match, and they give you all the achievement.
Why? I'm so weird.
I know. You were like, I don't really like that game. I'm like,
So
I think in your mind you didn't realize what I was saying. I was like, dude, they're just gonna give them to you. You were like, no, I don't think so. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Do you?
I don't know how you felt with me. I genuinely don't know how you felt with me. Oh god.
But
Right.
yeah, I think
Okay.
they should do that for every game that has a multiplayer achievement. I think at some point, once the game gets to a certain point, just give away, just give away the achievements. I don't
100%, bro.
like if a game's servers go down at that point, you should definitely give away the achievements. I think every game should do that. It should be the standard, but it's
Completely
not.
agree. Jay, why don't we go a step further and say, if you buy the game or acquire the game and play the single player, as soon as you boot up the game, all multiplayer achievements pop because it's already gone
Yeah.
down. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I agree. Totally agree.
And then
I don't see why that, like, can you imagine, like, that might even revitalize some of the game or something, Like, people will be like, oh, this game just gives you all the achievements, cool. And then there'd be like more talk around it, and then people will be hyped about maybe there being another one or something.
that's true. I guess the con though is that the achievements would lose value, so to speak, because you'd have thousands of people just going to old games and getting. But like, come on, we're OCD. Just we're not saying you have to get every achievement. Like just the multiplayer ones, just the multiplayer ones. And even if you do, then maybe it just gets a little avatar stigma to it, so we don't give a shit anyway. Do you know what I mean?
There's
Like,
probably thousands of games that the multiplayer just doesn't work on them anymore, and you cannot get the achievements anymore.
100%, mate.
Like
100%.
thousands.
There's probably more of those coming up more recently with all the games being shut down.
There is a lot. Yeah, you're right.
Now, next game I want to go to, Jay. I'm kind of
Mm,
doing this in order because if not, I'm going to lose track big time. You know what I mean?
okay.
Viva Pinata.
Yeah, that's a good one.
This game was notorious, I think, when it came out because it just looked absurd, frankly. And I
Yeah.
think it had a cult following. I played it for a week or so, I think, and remember thinking like, yeah, this is cool. I probably don't have the patience to play it. What do you remember about it?
I remember thinking that it was a long game because it took forever,
Mm.
and there wasn't really much skill involved. It was more of just like a endurance type thing. But to me, it almost feels like you could make Viva Pinata into a mobile game nowadays, and it'd probably do really, really well because it has that kind of layout, I guess you could say. Like it is very much a kind of like build a base, build your garden, and sort of it's a little bit like an Animal Crossing style kind of thing, but with animals, I guess. Yeah, I think there might even be like clones of this game on mobile somewhere. It wouldn't surprise me because they made a second one as well, didn't they?
Yeah. Like something Lost in Paradise or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
It
No, it was fine. I mean, it was.
was that not
I
just
don't
like an
know.
enhanced edition of the first, or was that a proper sequel?
Yeah,
Do
I
you
think
know?
it was a proper sequel. There was
Right,
like
okay.
additions to it or whatever. But again, I
Fine.
think that's almost like of a bygone era. Like there was like a part of a 360 era where there was like an aesthetic with how some games looked on Xbox, and that was just one of them. Same with like PS3. Like certain games all kind of had a similar feel to them, and you don't really get that anymore. A lot of those games are sort of not that hardware um, heavy. They don't need a lot of CPU in them, so they just go straight to mobile now.
Do you
Those kind
remember
of games.
the like for us being young boys? Do you remember the stigma around Viva Pinata in terms of like looks like a girl game or a children's game?
No,
Oh,
that
I
never
do.
crossed my mind, not even slightly.
Oh, interesting.
Not even
Interesting.
a little bit. I'm trying to think of what games were like that I can even think. I don't remember. I don't think I had a single stigma around a game. I mean, maybe Kirby, just because it was like a pink character.
Sure.
But
Sure.
even that, I didn't even like Kirby, so I don't really.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I don't remember there being a stigma or anything.
And the last one, Jay, Call of Duty 3.
Okay, that wasn't Big Red one, was it?
No, that was Call of Duty 2 on the PS2.
Two. Yeah.
Call of
Okay.
Duty 3, I am.
It's just as
So
is.
Call of Duty 2 was on 360. It might have even been a launch title. I can't remember. But the interesting thing about COD 3, I think, is that that was probably one of the biggest CODs ever at the
Yeah,
time.
it definitely launched it into four, and I think four was probably the biggest one ever. But if you look at the difference between three and four, it is massive.
Massive.
It's probably the biggest leap in Call of Duty history. Not even a joke.
Well, interestingly enough, Jay, not to go on too much of a tangent, but I listened to another podcast, and Chris Reagan, who I think you know of, maybe YouTuber. No, don't worry. He was basically just talking about the leap between PS2 generation and 360 generation, and how he thinks that there will never be as big a leap in gaming ever again
No,
in terms of
it was giant.
graphics,
It was
in terms of
giant.
playing music on your console, in terms of the marketplace, in terms of Xbox, like everything.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It almost feels like the game like level up, like the way that games have transitioned into newer graphics felt like quite a steady, like a gradual rise
Mm,
over the last decade or so. But from, like you say, from that generation to the next, it was like a massive step. Like it was like a whoop straight up. But now it just sort of almost feels like a very
steady.
slightly raising, like steady plateau kind of thing. Like there's very minimal change. Like if you look at the graph of like where it began, of like 80s like arcade machines, it sort of like did this, and then it did this, and then it's sort of done this again. It's like just there was a massive leap in the middle, and then nothing since basically.
Yeah,
But
100%.
yeah, I think we've almost come to the point where graphics can't get much better. Like it's we I think
I also think that there was a steady increase across most games, right, Jay? But then we have at the moment a few games which just seem to skyrocket against others. So the likes of Red Dead 2 or The Last of Us Part 2 or
I
even
actually
Ghost of
think
Tsushima. Like,
Horizon, the new Horizon game, graphically is probably one of the best ones I've seen in recent history, and no one talked about it. Like the water graphics in that game, Jesus Christ, they elevated.
100%.
They elevated.
And
I
then
haven't even played the
also,
game, and well, from what I've seen, it just looks insane.
like Demon Souls, the remake, I think that looks one of the.
Yeah, Blue Point killed it. They need to do something soon. They need to do something really, really soon because they're just
That's
going to make
coming
more
up,
money.
bro. That came out 2020, launch title, right? So, I mean, that time's
Yeah,
coming, you know
they
what I
need to
mean?
do something. People are still talking about Bloodborne, but I don't know if it's ever going to happen.
Oh,
Because
man.
apparently, there was a thing that came out recently about how one of the developers on the Bloodborne PC HD PC port apparently like mucked up something with a previous port, and then so they just cancelled it.
So there's no PC port coming
There was
either.
going to be one, but apparently they cancelled it
Dude.
because it wasn't like they just couldn't figure it out or something. I don't
Dude,
know.
even if they release a PS5 remastered edition, I'm getting that day one. Like,
I don't think I would. I think I've had my time with Bloodborne. If I
fair,
ever go back, it'll be way in the future.
fair enough, fair enough. So yeah, Call of Duty 3 then. So I mean, I don't remember this game very well at all, Jay. Maybe again, maybe one of
I
those where
remember it
you
very well.
watch someone play through it and you can kind of remember it a bit, you know?
Yeah, it would be similar to that, but I remember it pretty well. I remember exactly what the graphics and the mini map looks like.
Sure,
I reckon if I watched someone play the campaign, I could probably guess what happened next, just because I've done it so many times.
sure.
That might have also been one of the first times I did a hardcore veteran playthrough on a game.
Yeah, let me
I
just
remember
double
doing it right
check.
from the jump.
Let me double check that. Keep talking though, because I came off my menu.
I mean, yeah, it was. I think Call of Duty 2 was definitely my first experience of Call of Duty, but 3 sort of like I don't know. It was just like a very slight evolution. I mean, it was definitely a hell of a lot better. Like Call of Duty 2 was almost like bloody GoldenEye level of graphics. Like it was kind of bad. It was like very N64ish. It was like a better version of that. But going from 2 to 3 was better. But I mean, looking back at it now, Jesus Christ! Again, I wouldn't play it. Like you couldn't get me to play that. I don't think.
Unfortunately, Jay, you didn't play it on veteran.
No, I might have played it, but maybe not finished it.
You did finish it. You've got the achievement for
No,
finishing
I
the
meant
campaign. Oh,
finishing it on. I didn't play it outright in veteran. I might have attempted to get somewhere
you might
with
have
it,
done
but
it
I didn't have
on
completed it.
hardened, maybe.
Maybe I don't know.
There's again some multiplayer achievements. There's not many achievements on this game at all, actually. There's some big ones. You've got a 100G achievement for completing a mission without firing a round, but you can do melee attacks and hand grenades. So there you
Yeah,
go.
I remember that. That's funny.
And you've also got a 5G achievement, which I don't have, so I can't tell you about it, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Complete a mission with your body intact. Now that sounds like a pain in the ass. We've both
I think
got it
that's
though.
I think that's like not getting hit or something, isn't it?
Wow.
Or like not having, something like that.
Oh yeah, I've just realised, Jay. I think this was back when Call of Duty still had med packs, isn't it? Would you no? Was
Yeah,
it? Was
yeah,
this the
I think
beginning of
so.
the stain cover and I can't remember.
Yeah,
I
that's funny.
hate the med. I'm so glad we're on the regen health thing. I'm genuinely thrilled about it.
I
Actually,
mean, I haven't played it in long enough to remember. I think the last time I played Call of Duty, there was a med pack, so
fair enough. Fair enough.
I can't even remember.
Well, J-Balls, that's it for
Yeah.
this week on Achievement Archive. Now, next new segment I want to try out, just to see what your thoughts are. I'm quite excited about it. This is called Review the Reviews. So, I just want you to guess the game based on the reviews on the Xbox store that I'm going to read to you.
Oh, I see. So you're like people who have reviewed the game.
Yeah.
On like they've given like how many stars out of whatever.
Yeah.
And they've said something either really dumb or really good. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. You
I'll
ready?
try and guess the game. I mean, this is going to be nigh impossible depending on what they say, but yeah.
We'll see what happens. By the way, this is supposed to be quite humorous. Okay, they're not supposed to be serious reviews.
Yeah.
All right.
I imagine so. Yeah.
I'll read the title and then I'll read the description.
Uh-oh.
Great game. Rating is ruined by idiots who don't understand the meaning of free play days. Best game ever. Fantastic shooter. Lots of fun. Thumbs up, smiley face. Don't trust the reviews. Great game. Those free play days were a good taster, but people don't understand the owning something for a week doesn't mean that you have it forever.
Oh, that's odd.
For the
That's
hopeful
kids.
finish, but
That's
didn't like the
kids.
last hurdle. And no, but it ain't a race. In fact, I think that this one brought interesting mechanics to the franchise, and it wasn't too easy either. Both good elements, but seriously, this game is lacking in content. Couple more DLCs would have given it more life. As a result, it feels a bit rushed. Hence, it's a 4-star.
Huh. I honestly don't think I can give you like a coherent guess. I mean, I'm trying to think of what games have had free play days. I mean, I guess it could have been like Call of Duty, probably. As a shooter, I feel like
let's see what we've got. We've got
but...
franchise. We've got short game. Feels rushed. Needs more DLCs.
Game.
We've got a big franchise. We've got a game that was free on free play days at some point. Need help. It's okay now. Brackets. I wake up at 7:45 on Thursday only to find I can install the game I did not buy, nor do have the Microsoft points to buy it. Please, Xbox Live or the game des. Help if anyone else could tell me how this happened. Please let me know. Thanks for reading.
It's just someone who doesn't know what free play day is.
Good game, just end game content. All it's missing, to be honest, is more stuff to do at end game. Brackets, level 70.
Oh, so is it? I don't think it's maybe Anthem then. Level 70? Is it like Diablo or something? Diablo got to 60, so maybe not. I don't know. What is it? I'm really confused.
Reviews are fantastic. Platformer. They added verticality, which means it's now a dull platformer. I got to level 15 and gave up when I was trying to find some items by platforming in a maze in the dark. It's just cheap. Do I read these seriously? I don't think I should give context to these. I think I should just read them as is. I think that's funnier. Why do you do this? You give it for free, then you take it away. At least let us buy it. Please, thank you.
Give it for free.
Bloody hell, these people are idiots. Yeah. Awful garbage. Trash. 1 star.
A maze platforming in the dark?
Yeah, I wouldn't look too much into that. Right, I'll give you a one that's gonna help a lot.
Yeah.
5 stars. Great game. Before 2K went woke.
Was it Borderlands?
Which one?
3.
No, think about it. Too short. Needs more
Oh,
DLC.
pre-sequel?
Pre-sequel.
Jesus. Well, I guess that's a segue into what we played last night.
Worst game I have ever played. 1 star.
Did they really give free play days for that? That's odd.
I guess. Third worst game on Xbox One. 3 stars. Bugs rampant. Lack of support. 3 stars for the third worst game on Xbox One. What fucking games are you playing? What crap's this, huh? 5 stars. Love the game, got it free. Now can't bloody play. I demand a refund of the price for the bundle or to play my games. Got it? Wow.
What?
Wow. Wait a minute. Jay, I haven't got the Ultra HD pack installed.
You should probably do that.
Are you having the laugh? So I've been playing it just like...
Yeah, that's a bit. It's about a 7 gig download, but you get HD textures. Yeah.
Oh, for God's sake. Right.
Do you seriously not have it installed? Are you
No,
serious? Man, that
I'm
game must look
serious.
awful. You're basically playing it on 360. You do realise that.
Well, it
The
runs
HD
smooth.
textures were an Xbox One feature. It was like Xbox One enhanced, basically.
This is Xbox One X, so I don't even think I had it on my original Xbox One.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway.
Man, it's funny because you said it looked good last night.
I did.
But you're playing it on bloody 360 mode, basically. It must
Did
look
you ever
awful.
play the Game of the Year edition for Borderlands? You know, like the remaster.
I mean, I don't think so.
7 gigs. Wow, okay.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I can't remember.
Okay.
It's funny, like, I was going to bring this up at some point, but playing Wonderlands and Borderlands again last night, like, it's really making me want another Borderlands game.
You're so funny. You said you were like out of that mode.
Well, I'm now back in it.
Okay.
It's funny how I think my brain works. Isn't it?
Like,
if they released Borderlands 4 right now, I'd be on it.
Sure.
I'd be in it. I'd be totally invested.
Nice.
I'd be playing it for weeks.
I don't think it's coming anytime soon, bro.
And that's annoying. Very annoying.
Who
I mean,
knows?
how long has it been since Borderlands 3? 2019?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So coming up on 4 years in September?
You forget Wonderlands, though.
Yeah, but that was a different team, wasn't it?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. And also, Gearbox just made new Tales from the Borderlands, which doesn't seem to have sold very well.
No, thank God, goodness, because it's awful.
Is it awful?
Yeah, of course it's awful. It's not Borderlands.
Hey,
The
Tales from
bloody
the Borderlands
Telltale
is
game.
good.
It's not a Borderlands game, though.
Well,
Boring.
good.
It's a boring walking simulator.
Boring.
Boring.
I mean, I like it, personally.
Well, you are okay to have that opinion.
Right, Jay, let's move on to the main show. It's,
Okay.
oh dear, just needed better writing. Oh dear, yeah, no, oh dear. Anyway, let's move on to the main part of the show. So, let me talk to you about, Jay, what I've been playing. And then,
Please.
actually, let's jump straight into the news. A lot to cover.
Okay.
I want to jump straight into the news. Okay. So, Jay, news story number 1 for you. Sons of the Forest. Oh,
a lot of sales news.
Sale. You know the song? Sale.
Yeah, okay. Wow.
Sons of the Forest sells 2 million copies in 24 hours after entering early access.
Ridiculous.
So what is this game, Jay? Talk to me.
So there's a game that came out a long time ago called The Forest, which is basically, I think.
No.
Yeah, so it was one of these first games, sort of that era of games, that was much like Minecraft, but a more of a better graphics version. It was basically literally like a survival game where you're dropped into a forest in a random place after a plane crash, and you're given like an axe. Literally, that's all you're given. You have to go and survive, like create a hut, have food, survive for as long as you can. But then it sort of turned into this hidden game within the game, where there was actually almost like a Lost, like the TV show Lost element to it, where there was like a hidden bunker, and there was a reason why you crashed on that island, and all this sort of like hidden ending to the game. Yeah.
Cool.
That was basically the premise. It's actually like a full story. There was like a cult on the island, or all this kind of stuff, right? So it became a bit of a niche cult classic.
Yeah.
And a lot of people really liked it, and sort of, I've watching the campaign on that is really fascinating. You
I
can actually
remember it.
speed run it as well in about 20 minutes, which is pretty cool.
Wow, I remember it selling quite well randomly on like weird months and stuff, like just
Yeah,
random
exactly.
like
It's one of
MPD
these
charts.
hidden gems essentially.
Mm.
But the sequel to that game came out a day ago.
Okay, on early access,
Yeah,
Steam.
early access, and weirdly, 2 million people were like, "Oh, I'm playing this."
Mental.
So, yeah, that's. I think I've never heard of a game making more than 1 million in sales in 24 hours. I don't think two
I think
million in
GTA
24
5
hours.
probably did that.
Yeah, probably. But I
But
mean, and
yeah,
maybe
I hear.
Spider-Man as well. But I mean, this is this kind of game. I wouldn't expect this level of hype and sales around. To be honest,
I mean, the
it just
developers must be
surprised
like
me.
set for life now, right? Surely.
Well, I
It's a
don't
small
know.
team, I assume, no?
Yeah, pretty small team, but I'd imagine they probably wouldn't expect anything more than like 1 million in sales over the course of a year, and they've got
Yeah.
double that in 24 hours. Like this game is gonna quickly diminish in sales, but I mean, it'll they've already made their money back. So
100%. So, what aspect is it, Jay, about this? Is it all the different elements in terms of speed running, streaming, the
no, I think it's
story?
primarily the mystery of it, but I think
Okay.
it's then I think second or if not joint first of a reason as to why, because it is basically like just a survival game that requires you to build stuff and hack down trees and you know. So people, I imagine people would just want to see the evolution of that and how that's changed. I think the first game came out in like 7 or 8 years ago, so
Cool.
they kind of just want to see what's happened. I imagine there's people who've probably been following it and know what's going to happen, so they're like, "Oh, it looks amazing." There's clearly a market that I haven't been keeping an eye on, so
Sweet.
yeah, I was just intrigued.
Next
It
on the
surprised me,
sale. Yeah, no, it's a cool story. Next on the sales side,
bro.
a great news story.
Yeah,
Hogwarts Legacy, which is the Harry Potter game that we all wanted. I haven't played it yet, by the way, guys, but Jay's
it
finished
still
it. We'll
amazes
talk
me.
about it later. Everyone else is
Uh,
playing it. It's what we all wanted. It's sold more than 12 million units. Jay,
yeah.
who would have thought a single player open world RPG Harry Potter game has sold millions of copies? Who the fuck would have thought that?
Yeah, it took them. It took them long enough, but to be honest, I don't think they would have made a good enough game earlier. You know, I think it would have been a bit of a letdown had they not waited this long. To be honest, and I still think they can improve on it massively. I think they've got a way to go. Honestly, I
It's
think there's
very
so much more they could
exciting.
do.
It's very exciting times. Anything else you want to talk about on that story?
Just as to be expected with this kind of game, you know, sells a lot and it makes sense. I mean, apparently it was about 850 million in sales, roughly. So they've almost made. I reckon they'll make 1 billion before the end of March.
So
I almost
hopefully, well, I
guarantee
assume
it.
they've already made their money back. Then I
I
assume.
think, yeah, I think. What actually? Once we talk about this next sales one, I'll make a reference back to this, basically.
Okay. Next sale one. Okay, I'm not sure when that. Oh, I can move that. That's fine.
Yeah,
Elden Ring, ladies and gentlemen, has sold 20 million units
in a year,
in a year,
20
coming
million in a year.
from the Elden Ring Twitter
Yeah.
account.
So someone on Twitter I saw sort of made a reference to the Elden Ring making so many sales versus Hogwarts, and Hogwarts obviously being at 12 after 2 weeks, and Elden Ring being at 20 after a year. They were like, "I wouldn't surprise me if by June they hit 20 million."
Sure.
Like, so how many months? That would only be like 4 months. 4 months it hit the same amount as Elden Ring in a year. I think it's funny how like I don't necessarily think sales equates to Game of the Year status necessarily, but I don't think I'm trying to think what other games are coming out this year, but I don't think Hogwarts Legacy is going to be Game of the Year. I think it may be in the top five potentially. Like it'll probably be a nominee, but I don't think it will win. I don't think. I'm trying to think what else is Tears of the Kingdom coming out this year?
I think so.
Yeah, that'll probably be Game of the Year. But I think Hogwarts Legacy having so many sales does somewhat equate to popularity and also um, the reason what it being an actual good game and being warranted to being nominated as being Game of the Year. So it wouldn't surprise me if like end of the year um, you had Tears of the Kingdom, Hogwarts Legacy. I'm trying to think what else is coming out this year. Final Fantasy 16 would probably be in there.
Hopefully.
Diablo will
Jedi.
probably be in there, and Jedi. It'll probably be those five more than likely. as Game of the Year contenders.
On this note, Jay, I know I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think it really just shows how hungry nerds like us are for great single player games. To
Yeah,
be
just for
honest.
good single player games, which I'll make a reference to that again in a little while. This all
Okay.
ties together. I've sort of created a little story here with my news, but yeah, I'll make a reference to that in a bit. But I
Very
totally
good,
agree. Yeah,
Jay. I'm thinking
but the
we.
thing is, I'm kind of like I'll again talk about this in a different way in a minute. But
Sure.
while I think as a collective, it seems gamers are more inclined to want just a single player story. It almost feels like the multiplayer games from the collective are being pushed out. You know,
Yeah.
like people don't want multiplayer games as much anymore. They just sort of want. I think it's because we've had so much multiplayer over the last decade, like Destiny, Fortnite, Call of Duty.
Battleborn, Evolve,
Yeah,
the list goes
basically
on.
all these multiplayer type games. People are like, oh well, they haven't really done that well, so why don't we go back to what we know and love, kind of thing.
And I don't
But
get why
I'm
they.
still on the multiplayer train. If you ask me, like I still want multiplayer games, service, live service games. Like even though I know it'll be disappointing in some respect, I still enjoy playing them. So I don't really want them to go away necessarily.
I think there's always going to be, a massive, massive, massive market for multiplayer games. But for me, Jay, selfishly, I would rather have a indie single player game trying to do something new, let's say
Yeah,
from the likes of Ubisoft, so let's say a Valiant Hearts or a Child of Light, then Ubisoft try and make the new Fortnite. You know what I'm saying? That's so if they were like, we've got these resources, we've got this budget, what do you want to make? I would say personally go with something that's a little bit more innovative or something that you guys want to make. Whereas it does feel like a lot of the time at the moment, there's multiplayer games being pushed out the door left, right, center, and they're getting shut down after 6 months. And it's just not quite hitting the mark in terms of, for instance, I still think and talk about Child of Light. I
yeah,
don't know many people who still really talk much about the likes of Knockout City. Not to trash on it, I'm just
yeah.
saying.
No, I can agree. I can agree. I think it's what's annoying me on this is people are lumping together looter shooters and Fortnite clones, and I don't like that
Sure.
because they're not the same. To me, a looter shooter is still a good game. Like I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
looter
yeah.
shooters. As long as looter shooters are still being made, I'm still happy because I don't care if they're bad or not. Like obviously Avengers. I think the thing with Avengers is like everyone's always like comparing anything that comes out that's similar to that now to that because of how bad it was. But I'm still hopeful that they'll make one like Avengers, but the version we wanted from in the first place, not the terrible thing we got in the end. So
Yeah, totally.
that's kind of what I'm hoping.
And on that note, Jay, I'm not sure.
Please,
I think
yes.
we should maybe talk about the state of play for this next story in
Yeah, we'll
general.
do that and then we'll work up to it. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so what's talk about the state of play now?
yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So there was a state of play. I watched it in the bath this morning, just to catch up before the
In the
pod
bath.
in the
Okay.
bath. And before we move on to the main highlight, Jay, any thoughts on the other
Mm.
games they showed?
Yeah, so the initial like 15 minutes was like all VR games, right?
Yeah, for PSVR 2.
Which
Yeah, yeah.
was awful. That was abysmal. I think it's a waste of money. I don't think they're going to make anything off of that at all.
Do you think it's going to
I
be a
think I
loss,
still
Jay?
think VR is just a bad idea. I don't like it. I don't like VR at all.
In terms of because it zones people out of the real world?
I think VR will almost become like is it the iToy? Is
Sure.
that what it was called?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think it'll just die off. I really hope it does. I just hate VR. People think it's the evolution of gaming. I don't. I think
Have,
it's way too expensive for what it is.
have you tried it?
No,
Okay. I've tried
but
it.
I don't think necessarily trying it would be like, oh, now I have to have this because I think it's just too expensive for what it is.
Yeah, no, totally. Look, I totally get what you're saying, but I think it.
I don't care. I think if VR was even like 50 quid, like if the machine itself, I still think it's not even worth it. Then I know it's hundreds now. I'd be like, I don't think any price would make VR worth it. You could make it free and it still wouldn't be worth it to me.
I think
Genuinely, I don't think it's the evolution of gaming at all. I honestly could be eating my words. I think we're just I think VR is the evolution of gaming in like 50 to 100 years from now, not in 10, 20 years. Not even close. I just I don't see it. I mean, I can understand that like the sort of like, of like being in the game and like having the movement or whatever, but to me, gaming is sitting down with a controller in my hand,
Sure.
not standing up, waving about, having something cover my eyes. That's just I know I sound like a fucking boomer or something, but that's not where this is trying to come from. It's just gaming. That's not what gaming is to me at all. I think VR is such a waste, and that a lot of it is just like hands that move about shooting a gun. Like VR I think has more potential on PC than it does on console. Like, because I even saw a Hogwarts Legacy mod that someone had made for VR where you could literally play the whole game in VR. The whole game. Someone made the VR game from Hogwarts Legacy, and no one's talking about it. I don't understand why. Like, you can play the whole fucking game in first person. It's like, what? That to me is an evolution. But this shit we just saw from this this state of play, I was like, this looks like a Connect. It looks awful. It looks like a Connect game. I'm like, why the fuck would anyone buy that? Those games aren't going to make any money. I can almost guarantee it. And they shouldn't do. They shouldn't deserve to because they're awful. They're not up to standard. They're really not. They're not up to par. They're below par. They're below average. They're awful. I don't like it. That was my rant. Go on.
Just want to make sure that you get what
Yeah, I had
say.
to get that out.
I
It's honestly, it's pissing me off. I'm making my blood boil. I don't like it. VR is just bad. It's really not good. I don't understand where the love of it comes from.
So on the one hand, I think that I agree with you in that the PSVR 2 showcase, I didn't care about it. I didn't really like the look of the games. Now, that's not to say that the ease of access for PSVR 2, because I think you just plug it in a USB port, and the fact that the games will probably be better than PSVR 1, I can appreciate that.
Sure.
I did try Skyrim for half an hour, and maybe not even that, like 7 years ago. And I must say, Jay, I think it is the next step in gaming. But like everything with these things, timing is everything.
Yeah, and it's not now.
And I have to agree that it does feel so on the fence in terms of is VR going to be made in 10 years with Meta and everyone doing it, or is anyone gonna, like you say, it's just not there. It's just
to be honest,
there.
gaming isn't there without VR. Like, there's some games that come out now, and I'm like, this isn't even close to what should be. Like, if you compare it to other games that, like, I don't know, like a God of War or a Horizon or a Ghost of Tsushima, like, those games are near perfection. But so many other games aren't even close to those. Why wouldn't you just improve on what's already there rather than abandon that and just try to evolve something that isn't even close yet? Like, it almost feels like there's two races going on. The race of, on one hand, of like gaming that we already have, like with the controller, third person, first person, whatever it might be, like just trying to improve upon that, innovate on that as best you can, and then something that's so much lower than that, being VR, that probably has way more to go to even get to this same level, and then they're just trying to make that, like, I can see it's almost like a space race type thing, Like they're just trying that. Because I can see that VR obviously isn't in the right spot, and it will need literally decades of innovation after innovation to even get close to what we have now. But I can, it feels more like a pursuit to me of like developers wanting just to like get the technology there, because it almost feels like it has to be a group effort, and it's just going to take time. But I don't care. I just don't care about it right now. Like I don't know. I can see what it can become, but we're talking like sci-fi movies level of. We're talking like Ready Player One level of what it should be, but it won't ever get there. And I don't think I think we'll probably be in our 60s or 70s before VR will actually be any good.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's not going to be anytime soon. So to me, I don't really want to worry about it because I'm not going to be the one benefiting from it.
Yeah, I hear you. And to be fair, we obviously like our controller games at the moment, so
dude, give me a controller any day. That's what I want. I want a controller.
So there was that, and there was also Goodbye Volcano High re-reveal.
Yeah, I remember that they revealed that 2020.
I think so. Was that on the first PS4?
I think it was either E3 or it was like a state of play in like 20. I want to say it was 2 years ago. I thought that game came out already. I was like, what? Didn't this game come out?
I think that was on the original PS5 stream. I think.
Oh, so it would have been like the thing that came out just before. It would have been what they showed before PS5 was coming out, like to be like, this is coming out on PS5, by the way.
100%.
But it just never dropped. I was like, oh, okay, fine. But I think they actually showed off gameplay in this one. They didn't. They just showed off story aspects the last time, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
But
we've
they
got a
only
bit of
showed off
idea of
like the
what the game.
rhythms and a gameplay of what it's actually going to be about. But yeah, this game is definitely not. I mean, I don't know.
Look, I like the look of it, and I love the theme actually in terms of the world's ending, and
Yeah,
they know it's
yeah.
ending because I
It's
think that's
dinosaurs, right? It's sort of like the play on the end of the dinosaurs, but it's basically what would happen if dinosaurs survived. We turned into dinosaurs, but then the extinction event came later
okay.
on,
Yeah, exactly.
which is quite is a smart idea. I do appreciate that,
And
but
I think that the game itself and the idea looks interesting because how we can relate in this particular time. But like you
yes,
say, Joe, I'm also very aware that there's the signs are there in terms of it being left wing propaganda. Let's be honest.
basically, yeah. I mean, it's it's ideology injected, as we kind of have to come to expect most things being nowadays.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't even look at this game and go, oh, I'd think about playing that. Like, you couldn't pay me to play it. But
I would
I can
try it if it
appreciate
was
there's people
free.
out there who I'm sure are going to love it, so it's whatever.
I
Have at it.
I would try it if it's a free game, but I don't
I
think
wouldn't
I
go
mean, it
near it.
might come to
You'd
PS
have to
Plus
pay
to be
me.
fair. So
You'd
so
have
we
to
had
pay me.
that, and any other games before the main highlight, Jay, that stood out to you?
Well, what was the highlight?
Suicide Squad.
Right. So before that, yeah, there was three new characters were shown
Of
for
course.
Street Fighter 6.
Just a quick question on that, Jay. Are they brand new characters?
One of them is Lily is a new character.
So, oh,
So they showed off Cammy and they showed off Zangief, who are part of the original World Warrior um, group of fighters.
okay.
So this is like a bit of inside baseball, but T-Hawk is a character from Street Fighter 4, and he's like this giant character that almost stands in like a T pose, basically. He sort of stands like in a T pose and does this with his arms, almost to look like a hawk, essentially.
Okay.
But he's part of like a Native American tribe, and he fights with like aerial movement and like a hawk and sort of dives down and stuff. And this new character, Lily, is supposed to be from the same tribe as him, but T-Hawk being like maybe a man in his late 20s, early 30s, like a big buff dude. Lily is sort of like this, I want to say late teen, sort of like grappler character that uses these like very almost like Aztec-y American, Native American style war clubs that look pretty cool. So yeah, I like it when they make new characters that are like completely new designs because it gives people like a reason to be like, oh, I actually want to try that out versus an old character that you can just improve upon,
Sure.
or like
Sure.
play the same kind of style and just enjoy what you already know. So
I thought
yeah, it's
they
interesting.
I thought they revealed the characters really well because like even I'm still looking at these trailers for this game, Jay, thinking like I think this game looks great. And I don't even play
Yeah,
fighting
it's
games.
frustrating because I've sort of fallen out of the world of fighting games because I know I just can't improve any more than I already have. Like I can't play fighting games to the level I would like to enjoy them at. It never clicked enough for me to be like, oh, I really am good at this game. Versus like other games, like Call of Duty, I got really good at one point. Overwatch, I'm starting to get really good at now. Like I'm much better at like looter shooters and single player games that require, or maybe even just RPGs in general. Like I know I'm fairly good at those. I can get them done, but fighting games are just really tough. Like it's something hasn't clicked and it's annoying me. I just haven't found. I don't know.
But hasn't
I
Street
just
Fighter
can't.
6 got that a big story mode element to it,
It
which
has, yeah. So they've added like a whole new story thing to it now, because the game's basically done. It's just they need to polish the story mode, which is a bit annoying. Because as far as I'm concerned, Street Fighter is just online multiplayer. But
surely
that's not really what sells the game as much anymore. So.
but surely that story mode could be your way in because you won't have to necessarily have to be that good if that makes sense.
No, to me, fighting games, the way you show how good you are at the game is online. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
you have to be able to beat people in certain matchups, in every matchup, basically. But yeah, this Street Fighter 6 thing was basically them being like, so they've showed off all 18 base roster characters now,
Okay.
and any other characters that come out are going to be DLC from here on. So because the
Cool.
characters for the game actually did leak many months ago, so we already know what the DLC characters are going to be, unfortunately.
Okay.
So we'll see. But the game it's definitely looking like the best fighting game I've ever seen in my life. I'm very jealous that I'm not going to be buying it, unfortunately.
What? Just because of what's coming out this year?
Yeah, there's too much. I've already budgeted for way too much already. So
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Now, the main thing for this state of play, Jay, was Suicide Squad. Now,
It was.
if it's all right with you, I'll give my 2 cents and then you can crack on because you've
Please,
probably
I'm
got
actually. That's kind. I
deeper
kind of wanted
thoughts.
to know what yours was, so I can bounce off.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I stand by what we said before, Jay, in terms of the writing, delivery, and cutscenes still seem phenomenal to me. Like nothing
Mm.
short of phenomenal.
So far, yeah.
I still think the humor is fantastic, genuinely.
It feels very. I'm trying to think what I compare it to. I guess like I guess it's made by Rocksteady, right? So it's all Arkham level of cutscenes essentially and writing. Yeah.
And I thought it was the case that it was pretty much a 4-player co-op game. I was a little
hmm
bit surprised about the shooting emphasis for every single character in that. I know that there are some differences in terms of Harley's got the swinging and Shark Guy has got the more tankish character.
King
And I know
Shark. Yeah.
Deadshot's got a bit more of that sniper thing going on. But I
Yeah.
thought they would be much, much different. I thought it would be very much if you play the shark guy, you are meleeing and that's it. And I know they said he melees faster, but
Oh, I
I thought
see.
there would
No,
be more of an
he does
emphasis,
have a melee aspect to him, definitely. Yeah.
which I
I
can
mean, I know
appreciate.
Harley does as well because Harley has a bat, right?
Right.
And obviously Boomer has his boomerang abilities that he uses.
So I think, as always with these types of games, Jay, I'm not too shocked in terms of the game itself. I'm really glad they've finally shown us the game, pretty much.
Mm.
I'm personally not too concerned about a type of battle pass if it's cosmetics only. Now, that
Yep.
being said, it boils down to how many missions are in the core game, what sort
Yes.
of replayability and end game elements are in the game, and
Hundred
will they
percent.
be repetitive or will they be different and fun? And that's what it boils down to, Jay, because
Yep.
I don't
You
play
nailed it.
Destiny because it's repetitive. I don't play. I mean, okay, I'll play Borderlands 3 Endgame because I don't think it's as repetitive and I quite enjoy the New Game
It's on the
Plus.
border. It's definitely on that line. It rides it very nicely.
So I think for me, I think this game still looks really, 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 really good to the point where I'm
Me too.
seriously considering buying it near launch. But it's
That makes me
definitely,
excited because that means I'll get to play co-op with you, and that'll be fucking awesome.
but at the same
That
time,
sounds
it's
great.
definitely one where I've got to wait for that review embargo because it could easily be a 7, it could easily be a 9 for
Yeah,
me.
it's
What?
it's one of those ones where it's a total coin flip where it'll either be another Avengers,
Right.
it'll be worse than the Avengers, or it'll be exactly what we wanted from Avengers. Like there's about 3 or 4 different lines it could take. We're basically at the point now where in like a future traveling time traveling movie where they're like we should just go back and change this aspect to make it what it should have been kind of thing. Like the future holds either exactly what we want or just the worst possible outcome. And I really hope they just improve upon what we wanted out of Avengers because Avengers. I think the one of the main criticism of Avengers was like twofold. It was obviously the lefty type crap they put into it because it wasn't really an Avengers game. It was basically a Mrs. Marvel game, which was bad. And then just again, like the actual game design itself just didn't hit, like like the end game and all that just didn't really fulfill what people wanted. Like there wasn't enough. There was a lot of content. It just didn't. It just felt very bland. And again, like you say, like it needs to have a decent campaign to warrant wanting to go back and redo that stuff for the end game material, basically.
Exactly.
And there obviously needs to be a really, really good content um, roadmap, I guess, between now and however long it plans to stay alive for. Because that battle pass is not gonna get them any amount of money unless it is updated fairly regularly. Much in the way that they need to almost adopt a similar model to Overwatch's recent battle pass model, which is that it only lasts about 70 days or so, and they have seasons. So I'm kind of hoping that they're going to be a similar thing with this because it is primarily just and it is really just cosmetics. Honestly, it's just skins really, skins and like things you can add to your weapons. So I think as long as they stick to a good enough model and they don't bugger it up by like including like things that can help with in-game stuff, like giving you stuff that would make you too powerful or like XP bonuses. As long as they don't go down that route, I think we're going to be all right. There's more than likely going to be like a basic and like a premium version that you have to pay more for or whatever. But I'm kind of hoping that this is free, and then if you want to buy the battle pass, that's how you get all the premium stuff. I'm kind of hoping that's what it is. Like the free battle pass gives you a decent amount, but like battle pass, it's funny. Like battle pass, like balancing is so important. If you want to put one in your game, if you muck it up, it ruins the whole game. If you get it just right, it can massively elevate the rest of the game. So as long as they get the battle pass right, the rest should follow suit, hopefully. But yeah, like you say, end game needs to be perfect. Campaign needs to be decent. Like what would you say is like a decent length for campaign? Because I have my number, and I don't know if mine's going to be way over yours or way under yours.
I want a minimum 8 to 10 hours.
Oh, I was going to say minimum 20.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
minimum 20. Like to me, a game like that needs to be decent. Thing is, I guess what you're saying is fairly okay. I guess because it could be if you have a longer than that, it could feel a bit inflated. I guess a bit stuffed,
Sure.
maybe.
But
Um,
but but like you're saying, Jay, I want a not a stuffed. I want a good quality campaign
like how
for
long
10
is
to
the
20
campaign for
hours.
Borderlands? It's like 25-ish hours, right?
Borderlands 3?
Yeah, sure. It's about 20 to 25 hours, depending on how long you'd play it.
I'd say 15 to 20, I think.
Uh, okay.
But you might
I
be
feel like
you
it
might
depends
be
on how you
right.
play it. If you just
Yeah,
rush
yeah.
past all the enemies, you could get it done in between like
10
13,
hours.
14, 15.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
But if you like did everything, did all the side quests and everything, you're probably looking at more like 20, 25. That's kind of what I'm hoping. I'm hoping there is actually like an actual RPG element to it. Because if not, it's just not going to feel big enough. I think that was kind of the problem with Avengers. Is it just didn't. There wasn't enough of it.
Exactly.
It just
There
felt
needs to
small.
be enough of the core game. Like you
Yeah, because you have enough of the core game. That means the end game is going to be you're going to have enough variety to want to go back and redo certain areas that there's
exactly.
way out of or just like that are far apart rather than like it all. The problem with Avengers and those kind of games is it all feels too small. Like, there's not enough going on. There needs to
Exactly.
be a massive kind of map. I'm a bit worried actually because the Metropolis map doesn't look that big to me. Like it just feels like it's all going to be one area. And it's all going to be the same. Like you're just going to be fighting the same enemies. Like there's not going to be enough enemy variety. It's just going to be really boring. That's my thing that I think is going to happen. Much like Avengers, where it's just all the same. You basically fought the same enemies over and over. I think that's what made. I'm going to make a comparison here with Marvel Heroes being one of my favorite games ever. The enemy, like that campaign, was like 30 hours long, and it had like 20 different areas you could go to, and each area had different enemies in. But in each area there was like three sub areas that had all different enemy varieties in. There was probably like 100 different enemies in that game.
Sure.
Like that's the kind of quality. That was a PC game that came out in 2012. Like why can't we get that level now in console games? I just don't understand it. Like that is to me that's the standard. Anything less than that is just subpar. The standard has been met, and people just aren't getting there nowadays because they don't either don't have the time or they don't want to put the effort in, I guess. Or it just takes too long. I don't know. Development could be much longer if that was the case. I don't know.
Well, this game's been in the oven for a long time.
Yeah,
But
like 8 years, right?
yeah, something like that.
Technically, the last Rocksteady game was 8 years ago.
So, to your point, Jay, in regards to Borderlands 3, yeah, for
Mm.
me, a game like Borderlands 3 is a single player campaign first, followed
Yes,
by an end
the
game,
end
if that
game
makes
stuff.
sense.
Yes. Whereas this feels like the opposite, right?
Well, my concern with games these days is that actually they design the end game first, it feels like, and then they add some campaign on. Do you know what I'm saying? It feels
Yeah, that's a
backwards.
bad model to be
And
honest.
I think
That's
that you don't get me wrong. Is it more likely the end game is not what it needs to be if you prioritize the campaign? Maybe so, right? Because Wonderland's end game is probably a bit repetitive, to be fair, but not. I personally wouldn't say terrible, but I don't think
no,
it's pretty repetitive.
about average, I'd say. It's definitely
Sure,
riding the line between boring and fun.
sure. But obviously, they try and do what they can to vary up, areas and enemies and stuff like that with whatever. But in terms of a game
There's
like
pretty good
this,
enemy variety in that, actually.
yeah, 100%. In terms of a
Yeah.
game like this or a Destiny like or whatever, like you say, it needs to have that solid campaign. Like we need to feel like we've played through an entire game
Yeah,
with a
and then
70
come to the end game
exactly.
and be like, "Oh, this is a whole other game." Like that's what it was like with Destiny the first time. Like you played through the campaign, it was probably like 20 to 25 hours ish, and then you got to the end game and were like, "Whoa, there's so much more to do." But it didn't feel like it wouldn't. It didn't really feel like conflated. It didn't feel like, "Oh, I'm now got more to do." Great. Like you felt excited because there was still more of the same, but it was what you wanted still. Like the game left you wanting more.
Yeah.
And I think if we come to the end of the campaign of this and you feel done already, it's kind of like, well, what's the point now? Like it should leave you wanting more.
Exactly, exactly. One thing that did alert me was the gear score. I just got a little, or don't know about that.
Yeah, it's funny because it was already in like the thousands, wasn't it?
Yes, I think it
And that
was.
was
Yeah.
obviously like that was all like level 50 end game stuff. So basically, I think they basically showed off that to be like, this is what the end game is going to be like. This is what the max level of stuff's going to look like. This is
Sure,
what you're. This is basically what you're aiming for.
sure.
Which I think they do in a lot of games to sort of get people excited. They want to see big damage numbers and legendary
Best
gear and all that kind
armor.
of stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which I'm kind of happy they did that. To be honest, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't mind it. To be honest, Jay, I always go into these things knowing that they're going to show me the best of everything, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm already going in thinking, that cool armor they shoot, that might even be behind a battle pass, or even not.
Oh no, it will be. Any of the skins you saw, they're behind Battle Pass.
So I always have that skepticism. So I don't mind them showing like this is what I do like is when they go, this is your sort of custom layout and what you might look like level 5, level 10. Here's what you can look like at level like I think that's a fair comparison because I think it really
Yeah.
shows what you can create. To be honest, so I didn't mind it.
My biggest worry was the weapon variety.
Six
Because what they
weapons,
did
right?
was, well, it's not even that. It's weapon like the design of the weapons didn't look unique enough. It was basically one middle stock of a gun, and then it added like attachments to make it either a sniper or an SMG and stuff. Like it looked bad. That bit I didn't like at
Sure.
all. That bit worries me because there was some unique weapons. Like on King Shark, he had like a sickle and then like a butcher's knife, and like that was cool. And like Harley had like a massive hammer and then like a baseball bat, even a cricket bat with like barbed wire around it. Like
Yeah.
that to me, like what they should do is what they similarly should do, like in because Borderlands is the same thing. Borderlands has the same problem where a lot of the weapons are the same weapon just with different attachments added to make them look
Or
different,
effects. Yeah. Sure.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Which you can get around because there's literally millions of them, millions of varieties. But I can't imagine there being that many in this. And what I think they did fairly well in Borderlands, but what was one of my biggest gripes with Borderlands was that the legendary drops weren't unique looking enough. The thing that made them unique was what they did versus how they looked. They obviously did it in some areas. They made them look kind of unique, but not. It wasn't to me. It wasn't unique enough. Like they needed to be like separately designed things that you didn't see anywhere else in the game. Like they were like these. Like to me, Borderlands would have been infinitely better had it been like, say you got a legendary rocket, but the rocket was like really cool, like futuristically looking, but completely different in design to how like most of the other rocket launchers looked. Like it wasn't basically like to me, like in Borderlands, a legendary rocket launcher was what an epic one looked like, but with a different skin.
Sure.
That's all it was. And I don't like that. I want a bit more effort put in, which I think they've done in some areas, but not in others in this, and that worries me a little bit too. I love it when you get a legendary weapon and it just looks like so, like it looks like a really, really cool, well designed, separately looking weapon.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you get like a legendary pistol in this game, I want it to almost like have like 6 barrels or something, but it looks like something from the future or something from way in the past. Like it just looks so like unique. It needs to look unique, but I'm really worried it's just going to be reskins of the same crap.
I think
That's a big worry for me at the minute.
we have a much better idea of the game, but as you say Shay J, as you say, we have some questions that we'll need answering
Yeah,
before we make the purchase. I think.
it's funny. I think the game actually comes out. Is it 25th of May? Is that when it comes out? 26th of May.
Yeah. By the way, do you
So
think
it's
it's
almost
hitting
four
that?
months to the day. I
You think
think
it's hitting that?
it's 3 months. Yeah, I think it is. I think the game looks fairly polished actually.
Okay. I think it
I
might
think
get
right
pushed to
now they're in
June.
polish. I think right now they're in polish.
Fine. I agree. They've had a long time, right? I guess the
The game
question is,
hasn't gone gold yet, has it?
I don't think so.
No.
Uh,
It usually goes gold about a month before it comes out. So actually, it can be weeks, like
The
2 or 3 weeks.
I think once it comes out, we'll know whether they've been unified in one vision for this game for 8 years, or whether they've had to change the game halfway through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that seems to be the biggest trend a lot in games recently, where they'll start making a game and then it changes development halfway through and becomes something so different that they've basically had to restart the whole thing, and it shows.
Yeah, Avengers, right?
Yeah, I mean, so many games, so
Yeah.
many games are like that. That's really bad. I saw a tweet actually someone put up, which I thought was quite interesting. Someone said the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice looks like Crackdown 4,
Wow.
doesn't it?
I mean, I get the
It
joke.
does though, right?
I
It
get
has the same like the mobility in the air,
sure
the crashing
the
down, the shooting
shooting.
from weapons, the
Yeah,
third person aspect. Like the colors, like the color schemes and everything, like the whole
sure.
purpley and green sort of
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
orbs and whatever. Like it looks so much like Crackdown.
Sure, I
And
get
that
that.
actually makes me that I saw that and went, hang on, that is a pretty good marketing thing right there. They could totally use that.
Oh, I don't think they'd want to be associated with that though, right? Especially since they're
Why
under
not? Crackdown's
PlayStation's
awesome.
banner now. Like
I
Crackdown over
guess so.
Suicide Squad.
Sure,
Suicide Squad is
sure.
fucking,
But no, you know what I mean though. Like it definitely brings the Xbox players a bit more happy. I
I
think.
get that. I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. Also, speaking of which, like this isn't an exclusive to PlayStation, right? Is that correct?
No, it isn't. No.
I mean, because they are marketing it like it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I think it might even get some exclusives. I think later down the line on PlayStation,
Mm,
which is making me wait for to be able to buy it or whatever.
100%.
Actually, I don't think we've even got pre-order bonuses or anything yet. I think actually no, we know the pre-order bonuses is the original skins or the original costumes for the characters.
Okay.
They got leaked yesterday, so
Right. Okay.
be interesting
Well,
to see.
we'll definitely keep our eye on that one, Jay. A very interesting game coming out later in
I
the
think
year.
just the last thing I want to say about that is
Please.
just the overall consensus is that people are mass disliking the videos for the game at the minute.
Why?
And they're making a case that I think everyone. It seems like there's a large group of people online that really hate everything to do with games of service, live service, always online games.
Yeah.
Because I
Sure.
think the biggest gripe that Redfall and this have right now is that you need to be online, you need to have an internet connection to play solo. Both games require you, if you want to play on your own, you have to be connected to the internet. And there's two reasons why that's bad. One, if the game servers go down, you then can't play the single player content ever again, which means you basically are renting the game, not owning it, right?
Okay, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
And then two, if for some reason you either lose your connection or people for some reason can't afford internet, that means they can't play the game either.
That makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. I
So
thought it was
they're
just
the
a
two
principle
biggest
thing,
arguments.
but that is
I guess I don't know.
that does make sense to
Because
me.
the one thing about Back for Blood is that they went from online only, from having needing an internet connection for single player to taking it away. So there is a possibility that it could get patched out essentially later on down
So
the
they can
line.
change that?
They can change it because it's been done on Back for Blood.
Huh.
Back for Blood released as you need to be on the internet, and then about 3 months later they changed it. They were like, right, we're taking it away.
That's a bit crazy.
I think they did that because they knew the game was dying pretty quickly, so they needed to bring people in, but it didn't really work, I don't think.
Huh. They, by the way, they released a lot of DLC for that game, like a lot.
Yeah, there was a good roadmap for that.
Yeah,
But
interesting.
I think you make a good point about that. Even with Back 4 Blood, I think a lot of these games, live service games, are dying off a lot quicker than game developers are hoping.
Mm,
So I think this type of game will die out over the next 3 or 4 years.
sure.
I don't think anyone. I think the next development cycle of games we'll get won't be these types of games. It'll probably be single player, either RPGs or just straight up regular single player campaign story games. We'll see a shift in the meta over the next 4 to 6 years, I reckon.
Next up, Jay. It Takes Two, according to the developer Hazelight, has sold over 10 million units
We spoke about this already.
on the show.
Yeah,
Moving on.
this was a while ago.
A more interesting news story.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool number though. Pretty cool number.
It is a cool number. Nintendo Switch is coming up to 122.55 million units lifetime sales.
Wow.
What does that mean,
That's
Jay?
more than anything that Nintendo's ever done before.
It's more than anything Nintendo've done. It's more than the PS4, which is one of the biggest consoles of all
Jesus.
time.
That is, yeah.
So
that's
here's
impressive.
the layout, guys, because I want to talk about this all day. The Switch is now the third. Hold on, where's PS2? Oh, this is Nintendo. Right, okay. No, that's a lie, Jay. Nintendo DS has sold 154 million units. So it's coming for the DS and it's coming for the PS2.
It'll surpass it easy, yeah.
Well,
I reckon over its lifetime it'll surpass the PS2.
think personally, Jay, if they release this Nintendo Switch Plus and it's classed as a
No, yeah, the
Nintendo
Pro,
Switch,
they're
I
going to be
think it's
doing it soon.
skyrocketing past that number.
No, it will do because Call of Duty's coming to. Nintendo just signed a deal with
Microsoft,
Xbox about
Call
a
of
10-year
Duty.
deal to have Call of Duty come to Switch. I reckon between now and about 3 or 4 years time, it'll be 200 million units sold, easy,
But the question is, Jay,
easy.
I agree, and we can obviously talk about
It
that.
might even be 250.
But I
Honestly,
think the question is, do they release a new generation and start from
yeah.
scratch before that? Like they
No,
could
no, no,
either
no.
hang on for 2 or 3 years with this machine, and it is still selling, or do they say, here's the Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever they want to call it?
Yeah, Switch Pro is coming. It's sort of been like known for many years now that it is. It's definitely been in development for at least the
But
last 3 or 4.
are we classing that as still a
Um,
Nintendo Switch console? If
yeah,
that
still
makes
a
sense,
Switch, still a Switch
right?
console technically. Yeah, it's basically like an evolution. I don't think it's necessarily a new generation. It's hard to
Sure.
say really. It's almost like going
It's a
from
One
the
X, right? It's a PS4 Pro.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but I mean they could just come out straight out and be like Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever
Yeah.
they want to call it,
And
and
again,
it could
Jay,
technically be a different generation. But
I know that everyone says this and talks about it, but clearly, Nintendo don't occupy the same road or planet compared to Xbox and PlayStation. They're just they're just doing their own thing, right?
I
Like we
think
talk
they
about
are on the
games.
same road. It just happens to be a bit further back. I mean, but not much further back. I honestly think they're catching up.
No, oh Jay, no. What I'm saying is they're beating. Like right now, they're beating PlayStation and
I
Xbox.
mean, yeah, but that's only because of the amount of sales they get in the East, right? I mean, you could basically say that PlayStation is Europe, Xbox is the West, and Nintendo is the East. That's kind of like the best way to describe it, I'd say.
But I would say PlayStation dominated the West last generation, personally.
And it's
Also,
also heavily in the East too, because most
sure.
most PlayStation sales are done in the East. So I'd say PlayStation, I think, are on top right now, and then it goes Xbox, then it goes Nintendo.
I
To
just
be
think it's
honest, it just
such an
depends on how you look at it.
I just think it's such an exciting time for Switch and Nintendo right now. Like we're living in a time, Jay, where this might be the most popular console ever made, ever.
Yeah, ever. There won't be one that beats it, I don't think. And it's annoying because always have a Switch, and it desperately needs an upgrade. Like the hardware that's in the Switch currently is like I want to say it's coming up on a decade old hardware. Like we're basically playing like late stage 360.
Mm,
That's basically what a Nintendo Switch is. It's like if they made a 360 Pro. That's basically what the quality is. And it needs up if they made it to the same specs as it basically wants to become Steam Deck. That's basically what Steam Deck is basically the Switch Pro. That's the reason why it sold so well. Um, but yeah, they desperately need it because the new Pokemon game that come out, they should have waited for the Switch Pro on that.
sure.
It didn't. It does not run very well in comparison to how it should do.
I think
Um,
one of the reasons that the Switch has sold so well, Jay, is that I think this point is underemphasized. That it very much captures that imagination of a child where we can just like it's in there, you're playing it on the TV, and you just pop it out and you take it anywhere. And that is very much we've never seen that before. That is a leap. That is a leap. You know what I mean? I know
yeah,
we've
I
got a
mean
bit of
Steam
that
Deck
with
is.
xCloud and we've got a bit of that with remote play in the backbone and stuff, but that
No, that's
is
true.
very
Yeah.
much a leap that I think has been underemphasized, but it's a big one, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. Nintendo had a direct recently. We're not covering it entirely because most of it is crap, but I think one of the biggest things they had from it is they're basically allowing you to play any previous Nintendo um, generation on Switch. So any GameCube game or like a big majority of GameCube games, N64, SNES, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, um, and then like a bunch of DS games. Like they're all coming to Nintendo Switch Online. So basically, every previous Pokemon game is going to be on
Really?
Switch. Potentially, yeah. They haven't officially announced it, but it could be coming soon. They've basically I know they're all for free apparently too, from what I've
I don't know
seen.
if I believe that.
Not the games are like free, but like you can download the software, and I think they've given away a number of games for free. So it's basically like a Game Pass, but for Nintendo, like, but not really. Like, you don't have to. You have to be connected to Nintendo Online. You have to have the subscription for Nintendo Online, much like Xbox Gold or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But as long as you have that, you can play like a set number of games for free as long as you download the software for it.
Interesting.
So at the minute, I think they've given away. Do you remember that Mario Kart, the first ever Mario Kart that came out on Game Boy?
Kind of.
Yeah, so you can play that right now for free as long as you have a subscription to Nintendo Switch Online.
Wow. Okay.
That with like the original Zelda, you can play for free.
Jay, I always feel like Nintendo are just throwing money away. Why don't they just have every single bloody big
They're
GameCube
getting
game?
there. That's what they're doing.
They
They're
should
getting
be,
there.
because they're throwing away money.
In the next 3 or 4 years, you'll be able to play most sought after Game Boy games, GameCube games, and SNES and 64 games. They'll all be on Switch.
That better be the case, Jay, because that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. They're adding more games every couple of months, it seems.
I mean, I'd go. Why not have Wii games on there? They've got the motion controls, for God's sake.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but most people from what I've seen online, a lot of people are looking forward to the original Pokemon games being on there.
I mean,
you can't buy them for less than like £100 nowadays.
Well, what about the
Genuinely.
remakes? Are they going to put like Gold and Silver on there? Heart Gold.
Well, that's what I'm
Soul
hoping.
Silver?
Because if they put that on there, that's the first thing I'm getting. Because they're the ones I
yeah.
missed out on, and I'm pissed off about it still.
Yeah.
I
Jay,
want them so bad.
let's move on because we've got quite a few more things to discuss. So, last couple of news stories. It looks like Civ 7's in development, according to Firaxis Games.
Let's go. Been wanting that for a while. Because me and Will were talking about Civ 6 last night, about how good of a game it is. I've already put 300 plus hours into the game. Like, it's so good. I'm hoping they go a bit more realistic with Civ 7 rather than the sort of cartoony aspect of it. Like, I like the cartooniness, but they need to step away from that a little bit.
But it wasn't Civ 6 not as received well commercially and critically as Civ 5? Because I remember Civ 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say Civ 5 definitely feels like maybe the biggest one that came out. But I think Civ 6 has the most added content to it of any Civ game.
Does it really?
I think it had at this point. I think it had like when it released, it had, I want to say 12 countries you could play as, and I think now they just released, I think, their last country pack, which like included another 3 countries you could play as, or like 3 leaders you could play as from countries. And I think now they've got like 30 plus like leaders you can play as. Like they've been slowly releasing content for that game for the last like 6 years or so, 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
It's kind of insane. Like the game's still going. Like people are still buying stuff for it. So
sure.
Firaxis know what to do when it comes to stuff like that. And so the lead guy for Firaxis just left, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So, which is sort of the way things go. Whenever there's like an end of a project happening, there's usually someone who leaves. Someone higher up tends to leave.
Not always a bad thing, right? Not always a bad thing.
No, not always a bad thing. Just usually a sign of like, well, this was like their last thing they did, so now the new blood is coming in and making something different.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very exciting. And the last news story, Mortal Kombat 12 confirmed for 2023 during an earnings call.
Yeah, it got accidentally leaked, which is hilarious if you ask me. It's so stupid they did this. So basically, they live streamed their earnings. They do like a thing of like, these are the games that are coming out for this year. This is what we expect to make, kind of thing. Like we expect those games to sell well. And the 2 games they said were Suicide Squad and Mortal Kombat 12. And everyone went, "Hang on, you weren't supposed to say that. You said the quiet bit out loud." So I think the guy who leaked it accidentally is probably being talked to. I imagine.
Oh dear.
He wasn't supposed to say that. He was not supposed to say that.
Well,
unless he was, and it was like a marketing thing. But Jesus Christ, I think they were going to announce it at E3. I think that was the plan.
I was going to say it must have been close to announcement, surely.
Because Mortal Kombat 11 got announced, and within 3 or 4 months it came out.
Sure.
Mortal Kombat and NetherRealm, their marketing is usually very short window, but a lot all at once, basically. So they want to like punch the hype into you just for a short amount of time, so that you don't lose interest. I think they're good at like not slowly burning you with stuff because they know that can lose interest easily. So
totally.
And Mortal Kombat is still one of the, I think actually is the best-selling gaming franchise of all time, or fighting gaming franchise of all time.
Wow, cool.
More than Street Fighter, way more. I
was so impressed by Mortal Kombat 11 in terms of the just the quality of the game and how much that was there. I don't see how they can make games that quick, that well. To be honest with you, it blows my mind.
want to say I think it's been 4 years since the last NRS game. Actually, no, it's been almost 5 years, and NRS tend to release a new fighting game every 4 years, and they've
Yeah.
skipped out on this latest one.
Okay. I thought it
So
was like 3 years,
it'll be
but
more than 4 years since their last release by the time this new Mortal Kombat comes out.
well, there was
I think
rumors
it's
about
closer to
Injustice
5.
3, wasn't it? Because they've skipped Injustice
Wow,
3.
yeah, they've
So
skipped it and gone. Yeah, because usually the sort of routine was it was an Injustice game, a Mortal Kombat game, Injustice game, Mortal Kombat game. But they've skipped Injustice this time and gone straight to Mortal Kombat. I
fair.
think it's because they realise Injustice doesn't sell as well, but Mortal Kombat always sells amazingly. So they've just
Sure.
gone straight to the money rather than what people actually wanted necessarily.
Sure. All right, Jay, let's wrap up the news. I want to talk about what I've been playing.
Please.
So, I've got quite a few things. First,
Yeah, I know. Bloody hell.
Anthem. We've played and
Yes.
tried. Well, I've tried Anthem for the first time. We've played it together for a little bit. Now, my thoughts, Jay, on Anthem. I've uninstalled it, and I'll
Oh,
tell you the
wow.
story why.
Did you finish it?
No.
Oh,
So
this is interesting.
I did. I was yeah. Well, I wanted to tell you. So what sort of game is Anthem? So it's so interesting, right? I can totally see where those BioWare roots are, right? When you get to the Fort Tarsus or whatever it's called, they've tried to put some characters in there, some dialogue choices. They've tried to put it in there. I can see that. They've tried to put a lot of lore in the game, which isn't quite that engaging
way too much.
because it's just picking up collectibles, right? I think that the game looks pretty good, actually. I think the graphics look pretty good. I think the gameplay is awesome. I think flying never gets old, and I think exploring the world never gets old either. I'm always going like, oh, what's that over there? And what's that over there? And I think the core missions are really quite fun, actually. I think where it fell down for me, Jay, is as soon as I got to a bit in this story where I had to go to the free roam section, as it were, or explore the world freely. I was like, whoa, this is repetitive.
Yep. Yeah, it's exactly what we don't want from these live service games, basically, isn't it?
Yeah. So the actual core missions and stories, well, not stories. I didn't really care about any of the characters, sadly, and I didn't really care about the story. But the gameplay was good, and the graphics were good, and I enjoyed it more than I thought it would. But as soon as I got to this, like you got to grind this, and you got to do this, and do these wild events, I just thought, not a Scooby, mate, not doing that. So that's it, really.
That's funny.
So I just thought I'd let you know about that.
It's funny how we've had so many live service games now, but no one can quite seem to put their finger on what it is exactly that makes them great. What makes them playable? Like, what has made Destiny last this long? Versus, like, I don't understand how it does it. I just don't. I've played them, and I don't think I can tell you exactly why.
I think I'm the same boat as you.
Is it because it's a new IP? Do you reckon?
Anthem's a new IP,
or is it just because it was the first one that did it? Much in the way that Fortnite was the first one that did it, so it's still going.
If you had a gun to my head, I genuinely believe it's because the core gameplay is that good.
Yeah.
People don't mind doing the same thing over and over if it feels good, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's frustrating that we haven't quite seemed to recreate it, and I really wish they could, especially with DC or Marvel. Like, they could have absolutely nailed it.
But do we want them to recreate it when me and you don't actually play Destiny? You know what I mean?
Well, Destiny, I feel like, is a lot like a WoW, where you kind of just have to stop. There has to be an end. Until there isn't, until they've added something different.
Yeah.
I could play Destiny all day, but there is an end. Like, once you reach max light level and you've got the best stats and everything, that is the end, technically.
Sure. Yeah, but then there's a new season every 3 months, so it's like...
Sure, but that's just, that's like cherry on top. That's for
Sure.
people who are like, have nothing else to play or don't want to play anything else.
Sure.
I think that kind of game is what makes them great, is that they have to be able to last that long. Much in the same way WoW is still going. I think WoW and Destiny have the same formula, but no one can seem to recreate it, which is annoying.
Seems like a difficult formula for sure, but yeah. I enjoyed Anthem more than I thought it would. Now another game,
it's surprisingly good.
Yeah, and I'm well, Jay. Another example of me listening to your recommendations. I hope you know. Yes.
Overwatch 2 next.
Another game that we finished off, Jay.
Yeah.
Wonderlands, Tiny Tina's.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we've got every single achievement now.
Yeah. So we play through the monstrously boring and repetitive DLC.
Yeah.
which was basically there's 4 DLC and they each take 15 minutes, but you have to do
You
them
got to play them all 4 times, basically.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
16 missions,
yeah, exactly.
each getting slightly harder each time. Didn't really make much of a difference with our builds because we're massively overpowered anyway.
It's true. It's true.
Plus, we played it on easy, so
That's true.
whatever.
So we played through them, and then we also, well, glitched. Would you say
Exploit, I'd say, is the
exploit?
best way.
We used an exploit, guys, to basically get in as much money as we wanted in the game to
Yep.
buy the rest of the backpack upgrades. Now, I want to put this out there in the TGO forums, right? Because I discussed this with you, Jay, while we were doing it, right? Like, is this cheating? Is this supposed to be part of the experience? I personally think that doing that is part of our Wonderland's experience in the sense of,
100%.
you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to remember doing that. And I'm also going
Yeah,
to
that'll be
remember,
the thing I remember exactly. Nothing else.
and I also,
I remember when we got that achievement. Do you remember how we did that? That was so cool, right?
we literally just sat there
Exactly.
for like half an hour, maybe
It
even
was
longer, and
amazing.
just like did the exploit. And I needed Jay's help to do it anyway. Like we both needed each other, and I think he was
Yeah.
glad to get the achievement as well because basically, guys, to buy every upgrade for the weapons and the backpack and the bank, it literally costs like I don't know,
I
Jay,
think
like
it was about
50 hours of
300.
gameplay. Like what?
Yeah, it's about 300 million in-game currency, which if you did one run of Chaos Chamber, you could almost make 1 million.
Right. Okay.
So we're talking 300 runs minimum. That's if
Who's
you're
got time
lucky.
for that?
300 runs.
Who's
I
got
think
time for
over
that?
my entire gameplay experience with the runs, I think I maybe did 150. Maybe. That's at a push.
Sure. Sure.
So yeah, and that took me like 20 plus hours to do that. So I think you absolutely just did something for me that unlocked something in my brain. Two things. We'll start with this. The co-op aspect of playing Wonderlands made it 10 times more fun.
To do the exploit.
No, just in terms of like playing a game to me on my own, I think with a campaign is more warranted. But when you do end game stuff, I feel like it almost has to be with other people.
Sure.
Because doing end game stuff on your own, that's when it becomes grindy. That's when it becomes annoying. But when you've got someone else to bounce off of, to be like, "Yo, did you get that drop? Oh, I haven't got that drop yet. Let's keep playing till I get that drop." That is when the loop becomes more fun. And I think to me, that's how I can't. This just you just unlock something on my brain. That's to me where Destiny became more fun because I never played it on my own in the end game loop. Not really. Like I played it always played it with people online. Like the matchmaking was the thing you did. You always
Right.
had to bounce off someone else. Like if they got the drop, you were like, oh, that now gives me the motivation to keep going to then want to get that thing. And I think that might be what Suicide Squad has in its favor in that it is primarily co-op based. And so if you're playing with other people, it may be more fun in the end game. I have a feeling. And then I guess what was the second thing? It was co-op. Oh yeah, the exploit. I feel like the exploit part of it. Some people, I know you've probably made this argument before because I think I remember you saying it before. But like, it's almost like do you remember San Andreas and Vice City? You played those games, right?
I've played San Andreas. I haven't really played
Okay.
Vice City.
So both of those games back in the day, they're PS2 games, right?
Yep. 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 Yep.
There was back in the day there was a thing called like Game Shark and game cheats you could get, right? So
Sure.
you put cheats in the game and it made it so you could fly about in a car, or you had infinite ammo or infinite money, or like every gun was available to you even though you couldn't get them normally. That to me was when I had the most fun in those games. Now I'm not saying to bring cheats back in video games because that would be awful, I think. But I think if you had something in your game that was an exploit that allowed you to bypass hundreds of hours of grindiness, but it still made you play the game for as long as you would have done before you did that, and like you still play. Let's say like it took you 40 hours to grind to that point, but it only took you half an hour to get to that point with an exploit, but you still played 40 plus hours of the game anyway, even though you had that exploit. To me, that is fine. But I think that obviously the developers want you to play the game and spend the money on the game, not having that exploit. And I think that there's like an element of like a god mode almost where it can ruin the game because you've hit the end already. So why would you want to bother keep playing? But if the game loop and the game itself is good enough that even if you've got everything and you still keep playing, that's when it becomes the best it possibly can be. And I think this exploit is like a good example of where I would still happily play Wonderlands for another 40 hours. I think after this exploit we did, I would happily do that. And I think if a game can do that, that to me is it's hit the pinnacle of what should be great about it.
In co-op,
So I'm
sorry,
glad
or
we
by
did it.
solo?
Yeah, solo is tough. I think you probably more than likely have to play it in co-op at that point.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I think solo can be fun. It just depends on what else you're doing at the time. But I really it's tough because a lot of people don't have friends to play with, which is what I think. There needs to be a matchmaking element. Is there a matchmaking element in Wonderlands?
I think there is, mate. Yeah, I think there is.
I can't remember. It would be nice if there was.
Yeah, I'm
But
pretty
yeah,
sure
I'm
there
kind of
is.
hoping that I think the biggest thing about what evolved Destiny before was that it didn't initially have matchmaking, but when it gained it, it then made it 10 times more fun.
Sure.
So I think as long as there's a matchmaking element to Suicide Squad, it should be a lot better. Because I don't think there was one for. Was there one for Avengers? I think there was.
Mate, I'm very sorry to interrupt your flow. I really need to go to the toilet. I'll be right
Yeah,
back.
go for it.
Anything else you would like to say, Jay, on the topic?
I think I'm good with that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Also been playing Resident Evil 5 with Will still.
Ah, yes.
Yes. So we actually
Still. Wow.
So we finished our veteran run through, which is basically just doing the game on the hardest difficulty at the time.
Ooh, yeah.
Which was a challenge in some areas, but we got through it, which I thought was really cool. It's the first I think I've already said before, but it's the first Resident Evil game I've finished. So now we're
Yes.
doing a professional run, and we're actually mopping up all the collectibles. I think after that, we will probably go through the DLC, and then we'll probably be finished with it, to be honest. So a couple more bits.
Are you going to hit 1,000 or no?
Nah. One, there's some multiplayer achievements, I think.
Sure.
2, I don't like the game enough to grind to fully upgrade all the weapons, basically.
Right, okay.
And 3, I don't care enough to get S ranks in the DLC, basically.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So that's that.
Yeah.
I'm also playing Lego Star Wars still, Jay, the Skywalker Saga on Game Pass.
Okay.
Still.
Your editing game or something?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. My editing game. Yeah, or podcast game or music game. Still very much enjoying it. And that's all I want to say about that.
Okay.
I also got Lego Lord of the Rings for Will using the CX voucher. And I actually popped it in real quick myself because I had 2 achievements that I never got back in the day.
Just 2?
Just two. One of them was a 5G secret achievement for jumping in the lava in Mount Doom as a sealed door at the start of the game. Fine, did that, which works out well for me. I didn't have my save, by the way, because it was on my 360, so I had no save.
Sure.
So I had to start fresh. And then the other one was finishing the Mines of Moria level in 20 minutes or under 20 minutes or 15 minutes.
Sure.
It's just a ball ache, mate. It's an absolute ball ache. Basically, what you have to do is you get halfway through the level, you save and quit, you go back in, and the timer resets. That's really the only way to do it.
Oh, that's smart. Again, exploit.
But I mopped those up, and I'm quite glad. That was a little like, they're finally gone.
Finally.
Yeah, exactly.
Weight off the shoulders type thing.
So that was good. I will say, Jay, that I really enjoyed Lego Lord of the Rings when it came out, but that game's really good. Like, I think it was the first open world Lego game, one of the first to use voice acting from the films, like, as well.
Oh,
so yeah,
interesting.
So now Will's got that.
Nice.
Also playing with Will Master Chief Collection on occasion, just if we fancy jumping in and doing something like a par time or a par score or something like that. So just jumping in and out of that as and when. Nothing committal at this stage at all. And finally, tried Hi-Fi Rush, which I know you've played as well.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I played up to the first boss on the hardest difficulty.
Yeah, me too.
Because I didn't realise that, as Jay told me later on, the achievements don't stack together. Can you believe it?
No, they don't.
Which is
unfortunately
rubbish. So I
think you got to play through it about 3 or 4 times if you want to get all the achievements.
Oh, yeah, it's an absolute no-go.
It's a bit like Darksiders in that you kind of have to complete the campaign and have to go back to certain areas to be able to unlock them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, similarly. Yeah, there's like doors you can't get to unless you've played the game like through it once.
Interesting.
Yeah.
With like collectibles in it and stuff?
Mhm.
Huh. Okay. So yeah, so tried it, got up to the first boss. To be honest, Jay, it's not for me. I really
No, I don't think it's for
appreciate
me either.
I really appreciate everything it does. But yeah, it just didn't speak to me like it spoke to others. And I think you're in the same boat, right?
Yes, it was I'm kind of surprised when like all the hype came around it. I was like, people are praising this game. It gave me, I'm like, no, I don't think so. Like, I think it probably the only thing it really did well was storytelling.
Sure.
Really, like it seems to have a really good story. But other than that,
And the
I'm not really
writing and
impressed.
I think the writing and acting is pretty good too.
Yeah, sure, but it's whatever. It's some people's thing, other people's it isn't. So
I think people have initially reacted to it. Oh, this sounds
I think it will
horrible.
win some awards at the Game Awards.
You reckon?
Yeah,
I feel like everyone's had a bit of a knee jerk reaction because it's a shadow drop, and
yeah, that's
I'm
exactly
not
what I
sure
thought.
it's even like
Had this game not been shadow dropped, it wouldn't have done as well.
true.
I can
True.
guarantee. Had this game had been like announced and then come out 3 or 4 months later, it wouldn't have even come close. It probably wouldn't have even sold that well.
I don't know, Jay, why it got the scores it did. To be honest,
I don't. I really don't understand it. I really don't.
like I don't think people are talking about it even now.
Nope, it's gone.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it came and went pretty quick.
Where and I know I think we might have said this on the podcast before, but it reeks of being an Xbox game. And it's so funny that the developer studio that made Evil Within 1 and 2 have made this game, which is such an Xbox game, which I
It
know we.
feels like an old Xbox game, like a
Mm.
like a Sunset Overdrive style thing. Which is what people are comparing Suicide Squad to as well. They were saying it's very Sunset Overdrive-y.
Interesting. Weird.
Mm.
That's it for me, mate. So let's jump into what you've been playing, which is very exciting. Now, before we do, Jay, a couple of things I
Talk
want
to
to
me.
point out. One, Nick
Yeah.
called this.
Oh, he called it.
Two, is it a painfully average game? Yes. Does that mean Jay wants to play it? Yes. I joke.
Yeah.
I kid. So, Jay, the
No, I'm
first.
definitely the king of painfully average.
the
I mean,
first.
you know me. I'm Goldilocks. I'm average. I'm in the middle.
You Goldilocks. So, first game we've been playing is Atomic Heart.
It's a struggle. It's a big struggle.
Do you know what would be wonderful, Jay? What you told me last night on Xbox. Summarize it for the people. Tell me exactly what you
Okay,
said, because you said it really
I'll
well.
try. It feels like it has all the right pieces, just not in the right places or order. Like to me, it feels like it could have been had this been developed by like I'm trying to think who makes like I guess Bethesda. If Bethesda made this game, it would have been 10 times better. Let's just put it that way. Um, the acting is awful, dialogue awful, writing not that great. Story and the cinematics of the story, like they don't really tell you anything. Like it's all very like up for debate about what is actually going on. You go from complete peace to like all of a sudden it's anarchy, but it explains it to you like you've been asleep for like a year. It's really like all of a sudden this like the story is being told to you like it happened over the course of like months, but it, an hour went by, so I don't really understand why. What's going on? It's like really odd.
Is
It was
that the
all of a
premise
sudden,
then? Like it's just peace and
basically,
then it's just chaos?
yeah, kind of, yeah. The way you go about, I think the only things that really sort of are good about it is the way you go about um, collecting weapon upgrades, and like the crafting is a really good element to it. I think that's probably the best thing. Like the way you go about collecting crafting materials is really really cool. The way you upgrade your abilities on like your skill tree is pretty cool too. Um, but the map is atrocious. There's no sort of coherency about where you should go. There's no like mission select or like side quest select. It's all just sort of like a bit of a weird open world mess, but not open world at the same time. Like it's linear but open world, but it kind of can't pick what lane it wants to be in.
Okay.
Um, the worst thing about it is the enemy AI. They've got a system in the game where you can't kill all the enemies. They'll just constantly keep respawning, and the best thing you can do is just to hope to run away and hope that you get to the next area. Like that's pretty much it, which is a bit not nice. Like I'd rather have to go to an area, kill all the enemies in that area, and then get to the next area. Like I don't really understand why they have to keep respawning. That really bugs me. Um, yeah, it just feels like a really badly edited movie, like a movie that you thought was going to be good, and then it was edited terribly, and you're like, well, that didn't really make much sense. And
So
you came out of it sort of like, oh, that's a disappointment.
so is it like that the trailers are all kind of accurate, but once you actually start playing it, you're like, oh, it's not quite gelling together how I thought it would, if that makes sense.
Yeah, in my mind, like from the trailers, it almost looked like a Bioshock, but it's not. It's like a really bad Bioshock,
Okay.
which is funny because Bioshock it doesn't really hold up as much as it should do. Um, but yeah, I kind of want. I still want you to play it just to sort of know what it's like. Like I really think you should give it like about 3 hours. It needs more than an hour because the first half an hour to an hour of the game is pretty much like a walking simulator. You just walk through this area. That's it. And then once you actually get dropped into the action, it's a bit more interesting. But I'm not that far in, to be honest. I'm not as far in as I could be. But it just feels like a bit of a slog, really. Feels like I don't really want to have to keep going. I feel like I'm playing it just to see what happens, but other than that, I'm not really having much fun necessarily.
Guys, we need to support Jay. He's so close to uninstalling a game he's not enjoying playing. We can do
Yeah, I'm
this.
I'm
We can
right
do
there.
it.
I'm honestly tempted just to go on Borderlands today. I want to go on pre-sequel and just play that instead.
Do it.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I'm Borderlands. I've played so much, it's like boring at this point to
Sure.
do. It's, like,
Are
it's
you
hard.
waiting for the next release now then?
Well, I've still technically got the DLC for Midnight Suns, which we'll come back to. Um,
Is that out yet, Jay?
it is out. It came out the 23rd, but the achievements are still broken, so I don't want to play it until all the DLC's out at this point.
For the achievement, so the achievements are fixed, sort of thing.
Yeah, because for me to be able to get the achievements that came out with the first DLC, I got to start a new game anyway. I don't really
Oh,
want to do that.
yeah. Okay,
So
fine. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm gonna wait until all the achievements are out and fixed, and then I'll play it.
In honor of in honor,
In honor,
in compliment in compliment
as a compliment to.
in compliment to my sort of current finishing X amount of games and playing them and finishing and moving on in a sort of ruthless capacity. Have you got any
Yeah.
games or DLC maybe that you never got to, like a Burial Under
Yeah.
Sea or a Wolf? I don't know.
I still need to finish Kingdom Hearts 3.
Okay.
I still need to finish Ghostwire Tokyo.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
By the way, I think that game's free next month or coming to the PS Plus. I think it's
it's
coming
coming to
PS.
Game Pass as well.
Is it? What is
It
it?
is. Yep, the exclusivity ends and it's coming straight to Game
Oh
Pass.
man. Okay.
Um,
Well,
which
just
is
on
fine
those
because when I bought it, I don't think I bought it for like more than 15 quid anyway. So
games, Jay.
fine.
I know it obviously depends on how you're feeling, right? But like that'd be a great game to finish this weekend. Kingdom Hearts 3. Like get it off the back catalog, done
No,
forever.
it takes a lot of effort. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into it than just finishing it.
What about
This is
Ghostwire?
Same. There's just a lot more that goes into it. I'd be playing that game for another 20, 30 hours. I think.
Really?
Yeah, it's gonna take a while.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I sit right now with playing games. I do want to get Atomic Heart finished, and I'm hoping that at some point in the future all the achievements are fixed and I'll be able to finish it off. But
Yes, because for people who don't know, the achievements are so broken for that game.
they're unimaginably broken.
Yeah, but
Like there was an achievement you could get by finishing another achievement. So let's say you had two achievements, both of them collectibles. You picked up the collectible for one achievement, it counted towards the other one, and the other one didn't work. That's how bugged they were. Like it tracked the wrong achievement. It's really bad. Atomic Heart, one of the best things it's going for it really is how it looks. I think design-wise, it's probably one of the best I've seen in like aesthetically amazing. Like the weapon design, the actual like characters and enemies, like the variety is amazing. Combat is terrible, but that's to be expected, I guess. If the rest of it isn't really great, but again, this is their first game, and it's very, very ambitious, and they just didn't hit the mark. I think IGN giving it an 8 was way too high, to be honest. I think it's a 7 at a push. 7 at a push.
And Jay, let's have a therapy session right now. What is compelling you to finish this game? Because it's no good. I'm not sure you're enjoying it.
Just to see if it improves at any point.
But surely you're better off playing and finishing a game you kind of like.
No, I think there's almost that aspect of like there has to be some redeeming something about it, right?
Sure.
And I just want to see if there is. And if there isn't, then it's fine. At least I've finished it by that point.
Sure.
I mean, it's Game Pass, right? It's basically a free game
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
So
totally.
why would I not want to finish it if I've already started to a
Sure.
degree?
How long
And it's supposed to be not that long of a campaign. So
was it, like 10,
I
12
mean, I
hours?
probably could finish it by the end of the weekend if I rushed through the campaign. I could probably get it done. If I started right now, I could probably get it done by midnight.
Wow, that's cool.
Maybe slightly earlier, maybe 10. Like it's not that long of a campaign.
That's a
I
cool
think you can
thought.
actually I think you can speed run it in about 7 or 8 hours. But there's a lot of other content to do. Like I don't really want to necessarily do all that other content, but I want to have at least like most of the achievements out of the way, and all the bugged ones I can just come back to at a later date. You know,
So are you
I want to get
following a
I want to get at least all the story ones out of the way.
are you following a collectibles guide?
Uh, I was, but I don't need to anymore because I've unlocked the collectibles trophies or achievements, even though I didn't get all the achievements because
Because
they were bugged. There were like some exploits that made it so you could get all the achievements without actually needing to get them. So I've done those. I did another one last night while I was talking to you and Will. So
nice.
happy about that.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. Ah well, 6 years for nothing.
It's
Much
plenty.
like how this is probably how I imagine a lot of people felt about Cyberpunk, but I was the opposite. I love Cyberpunk.
Sure.
So.
Well, there's plenty of other games to play, Jay. So
Yes, loads more coming.
all
Next
movies to
one was
watch.
supposed to be Star Wars in March, but it obviously got delayed.
Mm.
So next one for me is Dead Island 2, which I can't bloody wait because there's going to be a gameplay reveal in about a week. They're going to do like a really long gameplay, 4K gameplay.
And let me just say this one last time, Jay, so everyone else can hear me. Please do not pre-order that game.
Not yet, not yet. No, I'm going to wait.
Okay. And the big one for the week, Jay, Hogwarts
Yeah,
Legacy. I'll just
yeah,
leave it to
kind of
you.
insane. I have platinumed it. It is completely done, 100%. Took me about 45 hours. Uh, yeah, very happy. It is. It's definitely not as good of a game as it could have been. Like I don't. I what did IGN give it, a 9?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think that's fairly warranted. I think it might even be an 8. Honestly, like there's definitely some things about it that aren't the best they possibly could be. I think the Harry Potter aspect of it is carrying it quite
I was
heavily.
going to say maybe it's because it is the best Harry Potter game we've ever had,
Yeah,
perhaps.
I genuinely think it's just because it's the best Harry Potter game we've ever had. So I definitely think there are things that I think ultimately it's like Spider-Man but worse. Let's put it like that.
Okay.
Like imagine like Spider-Man is 10 out of 10. Imagine if Spider-Man was an 8 out of 10. That's kind
Sure.
of what Hogwarts Legacy is.
Okay.
Like there's enough about it that weren't the best that they could improve upon at some point in the future. I really hope they do make another one that's maybe set in the like First World War or like the 20s or the 30s or something. Like they just keep going until they get to Harry Potter and then finally make the fucking Harry Potter games. That'd be ideal. I would, I'd love it if they made a Hogwarts Legacy game, but it was just Harry Potter films, all 7 of them, 8 of them. If they just recreate, you could play as Daniel Radcliffe
That sounds
or
pretty
Ron Weasley
ambitious,
or
Jay.
Hermione. Fucking ambitious as shit, and they made it exactly the same as the movies. They would sell way better than this game. They'd sell 14 million in 2 weeks.
If they could make that game,
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to, but you know.
I hear you. So what is it? Small quality of life things that don't quite, get it to that 9 or 10 area, or is it execution, or
Um, it's tough. It's almost like
is it just feel? Is it graphics? What is it?
graphically it's great, feel it's great. It almost feels like there's just enough to get by. Like I think it's more my personal of like I need too much content in a game. Like for me, a game just needs too much content, and there needs to be too much for me to do.
So
Like I'm sometimes I'm not satisfied with just enough. It's one of those sort of like my eyes are bigger than my stomach type things where I want to overfill myself with content,
I get
which
that.
ultimately leaves me feeling way over full and I get bored. But I'd rather be over full and bored than sometimes just enough. And I don't know, that's just a problem with me, I
Well, I
think.
was going to say, surely that is in slight conflict, Jay, with what we've said before about specifically Final Fantasy 15, and that you should leave it wanting more.
Yeah, I know. I'm a complicated person, clearly. My
But
brain is
I
funny
mean,
like that.
Jay,
But
45 hours sounds like the perfect length to me,
yeah,
genuinely.
I think the longer I leave it, I'm more like actually, it was just the right amount. I think had there been any more, it probably would have been boring and got annoying and repetitive. Um, I don't know. There's something missing, but I can't quite figure out what it is.
Okay.
It's one of those things that just sort of left to history at this point, where I'm like, what is it that's missing?
We just need Maximilian Dude to tell us. That's all.
I guess I don't know. There's something there that's missing, but I couldn't tell you what it was. I really can't. It's like magic or like aliens. You know they exist. You just don't know where they are
Yeah,
yet.
totally, totally. Well,
Kind
let's
of
have a think on
things.
it. Let's just reflect on it. If you come 1 week, 6 months from now, and you're like, Nick, I know what it was. We'll talk about
Yeah,
it.
it needs to be one of those sort of like aha or eureka type moments where I'm like, oh, that's what was missing. But I can't think of what it is right now. So,
And just to let
but
you,
it is amazing. I definitely think it'll be nominated for some things.
that's really cool. That's
But
really
I
cool.
I I think maybe part of the thing that I think is missing is that it doesn't feel as grandiose as maybe some of these other. It doesn't feel like an epic game. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels like it doesn't have the
Scale.
gravitas,
Okay.
almost like the sort of like oomph. There's a little lack of oomph.
Maybe
It's
like a
the best way I can
Skyrim oomph
describe
or a
it.
Cyberpunk oomph.
Yeah, like there just doesn't seem as much of a like yay about it. It just feels very like okay, I'm glad it happened.
I hear you.
Cool.
I hear you.
Like I don't know. That could just be my mood. I'm not really sure. I'm really not sure.
Ju-
I just think it's funny. Like early in the beginning of the year, I feel less motivated about games than I do in like the middle to the end of the year.
Mm.
Like I feel more excited about playing a game during the summer and the autumn months than I do the winter and the spring months. I don't know what it is. It's just one of those things.
I think. Well, just to let everyone know, I won't be playing it right now because I've got too much to play. But I
Yeah.
will. It's definitely going to be a game
Plus,
I
I
get.
think you're probably going to want to potentially get it on sale. I honestly don't think this game is worth. Is it worth 60?
Really? But I do also want to support the game, Jay, because it's what I wanted. It's a single player
Yeah,
Harry Potter
sure.
game.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I'll still get it on
You know what,
sale, but
I think what it lacks is more RPG elements. Like in my mind, I wanted to be like the movies. I wanted you to start from year one. You're a year one student, and you work your way all the way to year five, and you literally spend 5 years in the game learning. Like you go to like it's like a Persona, but for Harry Potter.
yeah,
That's kind of what I
totally,
had in my head.
totally.
Because it wasn't that, is why it's less than a 10. That's what it is. That's what it is. It should have been Persona, but with Harry Potter. There we go. We figured it out. We figured it out.
We
I
did
got
it,
there.
guys. We did it. We did
Yeah,
it.
it just wasn't Persona. It wasn't Persona. Ever since I've played Persona 5, everything is just
But
worse.
obviously that persona
Oh my
model
god.
definitely fits Harry Potter because it's got that school
It
model,
does.
right?
It is
So
the school
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah.
go to class. Although Persona wasn't even that. It wasn't like go to class every day and learn something. You do, but you don't. I think because it was turn-based. If this was a turn-based game, I probably would have enjoyed it more. And that's not even a joke. If this was an RPG turn-based game, I would have enjoyed it 10 times
Don't do
better.
it, Porky Games. Don't do it. He doesn't mean it.
No,
We all
I
like
do mean it.
action. We like it.
My favorite games of all time have all been turn-based, so
There we
or
are.
primarily turn-based.
There we are.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. I just need every game to be turn-based.
Oh, please no. Please no.
But yeah, every game needs to be Final Fantasy 13. That's what it is.
Oh Jesus. All right,
Yeah.
Jay. Well, that's it for this week. Is there anything else you want to discuss before we wrap up?
Um. Yeah. I mean, not really. I mean, I just kind of want to put out there, that I'm excited for. Obviously, I've been talking about it way too much, but I'm excited for Suicide Squad. I'm excited for the fact it's a looter shooter. I'm excited for Dead Island 2. I'm really hopeful for that game because I really enjoy it. Like Dead Island 1 isn't a great game, but it is to me, and that's all I really care about. And I think that's what most people should care about when it comes to any sort of media, anyway. Is if you enjoy it, then what does it matter that other people doesn't enjoy it?
100%.
I think the only argument you can make about a game not being good or not being enjoyable to you uh, is usually as like a collective. Like the people who are hating on Suicide Squad at the minute are probably more than likely just jumping on some level of a bandwagon because they want to see improvements in the gaming industry rather than the same old shit. And it kind of feels like we're just getting much of the same, and people don't really want that. They want. You know me. I'm all about new IPs. My biggest rant about I think I've ever had on here was I just want new IPs. Give me new things, new ideas, new IPs. I don't want old stories, told over and over again. To a degree, I don't want Fortnite again. I don't want all the same stuff, but I just want different stories. I want something to fall in love with that's new and innovative rather than something that I've already had the experience of, I guess. And I think if people are hating on anything at the minute, it's just the fact that there isn't enough innovation that they would want. But there probably is happening. It's just not happening in the way they want it to. So I just want, I'm just hopeful, and I think that's my other middle name is just hopeful. I'm always going in with low expectations, but expecting great things, and it's just not happening at the minute. And I think we're all a bit bogged down by the fact that greatness doesn't seem to be coming out of the gaming industry as much as we would hope. And again, I'm just looking forward to whatever's coming out. And if it's a disappointment, then whatever. Like even with Atomic Heart, I looked forward to it for 6 years, and it is a massive disappointment. But I'm still excited it exists, and it just means that the next thing that comes out could be an improvement.
Totally.
People will see that and go, "Oh, I want to make that, but better." But to me, there needs to be bad to be good, and hopefully that's what Avengers has done to this DC game. That's the bad, DC is the good, and so on and so on. Hopefully.
100%. There's a lot to look forward to this year.
Lots to look forward to. A lot to expect, and hope that it's going to be brilliant.
Correct.
But it may not be.
We hope it's all brilliant. I'm sure there'll be some misses where we thought it was hits, and there'll be some hits which we thought were misses.
Yeah, exactly. It's the ebb and flow of everything, isn't it?
And with that,
has to be balanced.
Like the Force. And with that, we'll end this week. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good rest of your weekend, and we will catch you whenever.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I did your bye-bye. Did you notice?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Bye-bye.